Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to 383 Garage. Today we're going to be talking about and showing you what's involved in fixing your car for roadworthy, like whether it be a blue slip or a pink slip, something like that. Just going over the basics of what you need to do, what you need to look for, and how to make it easier on yourself. This is not a how-to and be-all and end-all of how to do it, but this is what I go through every time I go to do a roadworthy. Make sure your indicators work, left and right. Make sure both tail lights are working, all that sort of bizzo. Number plate light, make sure they work. Just go over it, you know, go around the car, make sure everything's sort of how it's supposed to be. Make sure all your headlights are working, high and low, which I know these work. Oh, look here. I have a Parker out on this thing, so when I go to get it registered again, I'll fix that. So there you go. Things like that you got to look for. Rightio, make sure your tyres are all got plenty of tread. And one thing you have to look at too is if you see right there, that there tells you how old the tyre is. It was made in the 52nd week of 2007. So probably next time I go to get this car on the road, I'll need to replace these tyres. And what I'll do, I will show you in a minute what newer tyres look like. I know it's upside down, but these tyres on my 4-wheel drive are from the 11th month 2020. But actually, I'm actually starting to see, is it cracking? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Also make sure your reverse lights are working, you know. Obviously that it depends on what year model old Holden you've got, or Ford, whatever, Chev, doesn't really matter. If it's pre-ADR, you probably don't have it. On the inside of the car, you just got to make sure there's no major rips, tears in your seats, any sharp objects, any of that sort of stuff. Like this is just through the first part of foam. I'll probably retrim this before I put it back on the road. The other side's got no tears in it. Just basics, really. Just make sure there's no snags, none of that. And talking about tyres, you can really see the tyres on the wagon here. These are really old. You can really see the cracking in them. That's something you've got to sort of keep an eye out for when you're mucking around with your cars. You know, they might look brand new and all this sort of stuff, but they just get old, man. I think anything over 10 years old, they need to go. 100%. Another thing I do when I'm working on my cars and getting them ready for a roadworthy is I'll clip every seat belt in before I take it down there. The one on the passenger side here, the middle one, and the driver's side. I'll clip all that in and make sure it's all good. Yet again, make sure it hasn't got no holes in the seats, anything like that. Just basic check over maintenance. Make sure your belts aren't frayed and shaggy. Always make sure you have your battery in secure, nice and secure. Other things like the throttle cable, make sure that's sort of got a spring on there. Air cleaner's got to be in there. Make sure your fuel system's all hooked up properly. Make sure your brakes are right. That's one of the main things you got to do. Like if your car's been sitting for a long time, like mine was for around 20 years. It's actually 20 years this year. I put brand new recondition the front brakes and put new brake lights, but you don't necessarily have to do it every time. But mine were that old and that closed up, I had to do it. Here's another thing you got to get fixed is make sure your wipers work. Make sure your washers work too, which if I find the little square button. See? Beautiful, look at that. Alright, one thing I won't show you up close is like the engine number and the chassis number. Make sure that's pretty clean for the guy that's doing a blue slip, just so it's easy for him to look at and find the numbers. Like I ran a bit of sandpaper over it and cleaned it up a bit. not a drama. I didn't really have to do it with the front of the motor here because it had, you know, you can clearly see the numbers. Yeah, like just basically make it so that everything's neat and tidy and not loose, hanging off and like half podgy, and you know, make sure your exhaust system's all intact and doesn't leak, you know. Like under here, you look at that, that's all new, as you know. They didn't have to do too much with that. Make sure it all clears the suspension and all that. Yeah, make sure all your door locks open and close inside and out. Make sure everything works how it's supposed to. Make sure it's not full of rust. I had to replace these whole rear quarter panels. They were like completely gone. Like you can't go and get a Roadworthy with rust hanging out of a door like that, you know, inside and out. You know, do your best to make it look neat and tidy. All right, I don't know if you can really see it, but this upper control arm bush is absolutely shagged. It needs replaced. It's not even sitting square or like center to the hole of the bush. It's actually flogged out completely and perished to hell. This side doesn't even have the bush left in it. It's completely gone. So that's the sort of stuff you've got to start looking at. And as for your front end, make sure your bushings are all greased up, lubed up. Upper control arm bush, lower control arm bush. One thing that does go on these is, I think it's like the idler arm, that one there. They sort of shag out, but you know, sometimes you can get away with just pumping up full of grease. And yeah, oh yeah, and also make sure there's no huge oil leaks, you know. Like if it needs a rocker cover gasket, put a rocker cover gasket on. If it needs a sump gasket, yank the motor, put a sump gasket on it. But yeah, if you can avoid it, no engine fluids on the ground while it's at the workshop. I think it's, I have heard like every 30 seconds or so. If it doesn't drip in within 30 seconds, you're right, but I don't know. I just try to have no oil leaks, but you can't sort of fix that all the time. So, what are you doing, Wombat? Hey? Rightio, one special note too is anything that's on the car has to be safe. It's like your tow bar, you know. That's got to be safe and operational. It's all got to be bolted properly, working. You just got to make sure the car's, you know, all together and safe and not bodgy. You know, this car here is a bit. Oh, it's not bodgy. It's just I've used up all old parts and all that sort of stuff. But it went through a blue slip, no problem. You know, one of the tougher guys here in the Beggar Valley. Apart from that, it's pretty good. All right. Also, horn has to work. Make sure your this sort of clicks back off when you turn the steering wheel. Everything's got to be as per legal. Also, make sure your dash lights all work, because that may be another thing they look at. But yeah, apart from that, that's it. Alright, one last thing. Make sure your interior lights work. Make sure your demister and everything works. All that sort of stuff. So you can change heat from different directions. You literally got to make sure all the safety features work on these things. Oh yeah, and the make sure the inhibitor switch works. Like, okay, I'll put it into reverse. Let's see if it'll start. See, we want it to start in reverse or drive. Put it into neutral. Should work. There you go. Too easy. All right, have a good day, guys.
All right, well, basically that's just a basic rundown of how to do it. Just take your time, go through it. You know, don't look at what I'm doing as gospel. It's just very basics, and you know, that's what I do for New South Wales rego. Victoria may be a bit different. New South Wales is different. Queensland is probably different. South Australia, all those sorts of places. Even if you're overseas, it's all different. Like in Germany, I think they got like is it called TUV or something like that? Not that we really have any old holders over there, but yeah, it's something interesting. All right, well, if you like what you see, feel free to give us a subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.